Everyone's financial journey is a little bit different from one another, but for most, the main goal is to reach financial independence. While that might be unachievable for some right now, is there a way we can break up this big goal of financial independence into much more smaller goals? Well, according to Grant Sabatier, who is the voice of the FIRE movement, the Financial Independence Retire Early movement, there are actually 7 stages of wealth that you may fall into. And the financial independence stage is only the 5th item on this list. There's still 2 more stages above that. It's good to break up your level of wealth into stages because it can show you where you might need to improve on and what you can do to progress to the next stage. So the first stage of wealth is the dependence stage. When you are in the dependent stage, you're relying on other external parties for your financial support, and this could be anything from parents or other third parties. And think about this stage as just living with your parents, where you're relying on them 100% to cover your lifestyle and other basic necessities. If you are in this stage and still living with your parents, it's a really good time to start researching as much as you can about personal finance. Read any financial books that you can get, listen to podcasts, watch videos on finance. You can do this time to start preparing so you have a better understanding of what you can do when you get older and you have to pay for things yourself. The second stage on the list is the survival stage. And think about the survival stage as just living paycheck to paycheck, where the paycheck just covers your basic needs and living expenses. And this is actually where most Americans fall into, which is the stage 2, and 61% of Americans are reporting living paycheck to paycheck. And you might think people living to paycheck are just low income earners who might not be able to afford certain items. Well, it turns out that even people earning over 6 figures are still sometimes in the same boat living paycheck to paycheck. Another study showed that 51% of people are still living paycheck to paycheck even after 6 figures. Now this stage can be especially hard because you're not able to save or invest any of your money because it's all going into your expenses. So to get out of this stage, it's really important that you start to develop a budget. See where your money is going to and see if there's any ways that you can cut back on some of those expenses. If you do have the extra time, it could be wise to look for additional revenue streams to start to bring in some more income. Now, another thing to point out in the survival stage is because you are living paycheck to paycheck, if there's any extra money that you could have left over, it's important to put that into an emergency fund. Even if it's just a little bit of money set aside, it could really help if you don't receive a paycheck that week, or if there's any little emergencies that you could use that emergency fund for instead of your paycheck. The third stage on the list is the stability stage. This is the stage where you're consistently earning enough money to cover your expenses and still have some money left over to save. Now, because you're able to save and not living paycheck to paycheck anymore, this is where you can actually start to focus on your long-term investment goals like retirement or saving up for anything. In this stage, you should have also built up a good emergency fund with about 6 months worth of expenses. By having a really big emergency fund set in place, it's going to save you a lot of stress knowing that you can pay off those unplanned expenses if they do come up. So as a quick example of how much you should have in your emergency fund, if you have $3,000 worth of expenses per month, you should have an emergency fund that is $18,000, which would be 6 months worth of those $3,000 per month expenses. This is also a stage where you can work harder on paying off any debt that you may have because you have money left over that aren't going into expenses anymore. Fourth stage on the list is the security stage. This is the stage where you could pay off your bills with ease, have a really high savings rate, and any financial emergency won't cut you back from your big long-term goals. Now, you do not have to be a high income earner to be in the security stage. All it means is that you have a high income relative to what your expenses are. You're in this stage because you live below your means and are able to save a lot of your paycheck because of that. Now, this is also more for people who are farther into their careers, because if you're younger, you still have big financial goals that you may have, like buying a house, having kids, etc. Now, in this stage, you're still following a budget, but since you do have that high income versus your expenses, you have the ability to spend more money on yourself for fancy things like vacations. You should have also paid off your debt except your mortgage. So the debt that you should have paid off is things like your credit card loan, student loans, personal loans, things like that. So the 5th stage on the list is the independent stage, which most people strive to achieve. The independent stage comes from all of your hard work from saving and investing to your future self, and this is when you can actually really reap the rewards of that. This is when you can actually live off your investments and withdraw a certain portion of that investment to fund your lifestyle. So for example, if you have $1 million in investments, you can withdraw 4% of that per year, which would be $40,000 to fund your lifestyle. And this stage for the majority are people that are retired from their job and are using this to fund their retirement. In this stage, likely everything is paid off, all of your debt, including your mortgage on your house. And this is also the stage where every financial goal that you have has been accounted for example, like saving for your kids' college education. And most people actually stop there in the financial independence stage, but there's actually 2 more levels of wealth that you could potentially achieve. And one of these stages of wealth is the freedom stage. And this is just a step above the independent stage where you have the freedom to do what you want when you want. So in this stage, like instead of having $40,000 like in the independence example, you could have $5 million in investments, and which are 4% of that, which would be $200,000 per year. So it's able to fund even a bigger lifestyle that you may have. And this is a stage where you can really live life without ever having to worry about losing money. These are the people that go to the grocery stores and buy things without even looking at the price tag. They don't really have any care on the day-to-day purchases or expenses. And for around 99.9% of the population, this is kind of where that ceiling is set on the stages of wealth. But there is one more stage that you could potentially achieve. And that is the 7th stage of wealth, which is the abundant stage. And this is the stage where you really have FU money, where you can fund your lifestyle, do whatever you want when you want, and it can buy anything that you could possibly imagine. Now, to get to this stage, you either have to be very lucky or work really hard on your businesses or in your career to develop such a stage of wealth. Things like becoming CEO, having a company go public, or getting a really big buyout, things like this where you have a large amount of money that is left over. Because money is no object for you, you can start looking at other ways that you could help out in this world, such as giving large amounts of it away to charity, develop businesses that could help people, or even set up your family for generations. And those were the 7 stages of wealth. It's really good to break down these financial goals into stages because it can really show where you are and what you can start to do to prepare for these next stages. If you liked this video and found it helpful, I made another video that you can watch right up here that you might find interesting. That's all I have for now, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.